Yo guys, Cyber's back and it's time to go in depth with the anime The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. But before that, make sure that you either watch the show or watch my Watcher Pass review of the anime on this channel, link in the description, because this video will contain a lot of spoiler. But if you did, let's get started. A lot of anime are released every year, and when I mean a lot, I truly mean a lot. But man, some of them freaking suck. I mean, it's to be expected when so much came out. Well, what do you do then? You pick one of the few that sound interesting and hope that it's good. But you remember when you first got into anime? Man, that was good time. And if you currently got into anime, man, I envy you. Why, you probably wonder? Well, it's because back then I had a brand new world that just opened up to me, full of great show and some masterpiece. You probably know what I mean, and if you don't, you'll probably understand in a couple of years. Those good old time wars just started to watch anime. That's pretty much what this show represents for me. I watched it back in high school, and back then I only watched like a couple of anime. It was during one summer. I remember binge watching it back then, and it was a lot of fun. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. I'll start with a super fast summarize of the story. Our protagonist Kyon finds himself dragged in the SOS Brigade, which is a club that was made by an eccentric girl at his school named Haruhi Suzumiya. In her club, she tried to find supernatural beings and hang out with them. But she doesn't know that the other member of the SOS Brigade are in fact supernatural beings. And those supernatural beings are here to watch over Haruhi Suzumiya because she has the power of an almighty god, but she doesn't know it herself. So the member of the brigade must keep Haruhi in check so that she doesn't destroy the world accidentally. Man, talk about an original plot. Now let's get in depth. From the get-go, it starts with a pretty strong introduction to Kyon, the protagonist.
Okay. Asking somebody how long they believed in Santa Claus is so stupid you can't even consider it a topic suitable for idle conversation. But if you still want to know how long I believed in some old fat guy who wears a funky red suit, I can tell you this. I've never believed in him, ever. Now, having said that, it wasn't until I got older that I realized aliens, time travelers, ghosts, monsters, espers, evil syndicates, and the anime/manga/fantasy flick heroes that fight said evil syndicates were also fake. Okay, I guess I always knew those things were bogus, I just didn't want to admit it. All I ever wanted was for an alien, time traveler, ghost, monster, esper, evil syndicate, or the hero that fought him to just appear and say, hey! Unfortunately, reality is a hard road indeed.
The show starts with Kyon doing a monologue about how he never believed in Santa, but it took him some time to understand that alien, time traveler, and esper don't exist. You know, I always really love this monologue. It's the perfect introduction to the story by making us not only gain a certain vibe of what the show is going to be about, but also making us relate to the dude talking. We know nothing about this guy, but he just feels familiar somehow. I know it sounds weird, but we all believed in alien or time traveler at some point, and maybe you still do. When I decided to watch Haruhi, it was back when she was everywhere on anime forum and on YouTube, so I wanted to know what it was all about. I was like, well, little cute I guess, but after those first piece of dialogue, I was starting to feel really invested, and it was only the introduction of the show. I mean, come on, that's some good stuff. This show was made by Kyoto Animation, and man, for my taste they're so goddamn good with art and animation. I mean, just look at Kyokai no kanata, so beautiful. And yeah, Harry looked a bit dated, but I still think it looked pretty darn good. But the animation on the gun no scene, it's next level stuff. Damn, it looks so good. I know it's not mind-blowing today, but back then it was really good. And the movie's animation, god, it's so good, but it's a topic for another video I guess. I also really love this scene. I know it's at the beginning again, but hell with it.
And that's when I met her.
I'm Haruhi Suzumiya from East Junior High. First off, I'm not interested in ordinary people, but if any of you are aliens, time travelers, or espers, please come see me. That is all.
Is that supposed to be funny?
I mean, this guy is new and really don't want to mess up his first impression, and this crazy girl get up and start to say some shit about being friend with supernatural being. I mean, talk about black and white.
As long as Haruhi Suzumiya is sitting quietly, she's just like any other extremely beautiful high school girl. And my seat just happens to be in front of her. I mean, can you blame me for wanting to exploit the seating arrangement so I could, get to know her better? Hey, that stuff you were saying when you were introducing yourself, were you serious about all that?
You see, this is what makes Kyon such a good character. The way you hear him think add a new layer to the guy. In most anime, you just see the action of the character, which give you only one information about this certain character. But Kyon, he managed to be his own character while being a pretty relatable guy. You know how hard this is? It's like super hard. Just to illustrate what I mean, think of an harem protagonist. I'm 80% sure that you think about a young teenager with either black or brown hair that have close to no personality except the fact that he is either a pervert or he is kind. You wonder who am I talking about, right? That's exactly the point. Almost every harem protagonist fit that description. It's the case so that you could put yourself at the place of this character. That's why every time I see a character that fit this description, I call him protagonist-kun or pro-kun for short. The reason why I call those characters pro-kun is that they are pretty much the same character. You could switch them from anime to anime and the result would probably be the same, since they're so alike. Well, yeah, I know that Kyon might look like a regular pro-kun, but the fact that you hear what he's thinking add a new dimension to the guy, like I already said. The fact that you hear him think makes you understand him more as a character. Let's take a quick example with Kirito from Sword Art Online. And yeah, I know that in the novel you hear his thought, but in the anime you don't, so I think it's a good example. Like, let's take a scene like, let's say when Kirito decided to talk to Asuna, we don't know why he did it, so we can't put two and two together and we didn't get any new information about his character in this scene. While when Kyon decides to talk to Haruhi for the first time, it's because he thinks she's cute. And I know it's a small detail and probably not the best example, but the more and more you get those small information, the more and more you get some pieces of Kyon personality which make him different from those other pro-kun. I'm not saying that you can't get new information from action. A lot of characters can, but I think that character like Kyon and Kirito kinda need something more because they're a bit basic otherwise. So that's why I really like to hear his thought. And it's also because I really love to hear his inner thought. He always has something cool to add to the story, even if it's just a joke or something useless, cause that's what makes him human. Oh, and another cool thing with this show is, well, take a look at that.
And so, when Haruhi came to class the next day with her long hair all chopped off, I was rather disturbed by it. I mean, cutting it short like that the day after I made my comment, it's a little rash, don't you think?
Not really.
You see, this is a pretty cool design choice at this scene. It first looked like a continuation of his thought, but in fact it was a dialogue. Kyon's thought and dialogue are exactly the same, so you only know if he's talking or thinking if you hear someone insert him, and I think it's a pretty fun and original design choice. The show has a way of slowly building our interest without shoving its plot in our face. The show doesn't start with Haruhi's a god. No, instead they try to introduce us the character and invest us with their personality and chemistry. Then they start to talk about them being supernatural being, and when I first watched this show I didn't know what it was all about, so I thought that they were all crazy people and that Kyon would have to deal with them. But then Asakura walked toward him and stabbed the shit out of him. I was shook.
I'm going to kill you and see how Miss Suzumiya reacts.
I mean, what? Then Nagato came in and started to fight in a parallel earth or something. That's when I realized, oh shit, it was all true. And yeah, that was when the show hooked me like a fish. Same goes for the episode where Koizumi showed the giant monster that Haruhi's subconscious created. It was so surprising.
Please, take a look behind you. When Miss Suzumiya's irritation level gets to a certain point, these giants suddenly appear. I think it's a form of stress relief for her, with those things acting out on her behalf and destroying stuff. I mean, she can't go causing riots or anything in the real world, so she creates a closed space and she's free to unleash her fury inside it. Don't you think that's logical?
I didn't know I was watching a supernatural anime, but you know, even if it was a shock, it was a good surprise. I will always remember the moment when he started to fly with Dragon Ball Z-like energy. I got straight up from my chair to see the reaction of my brothers and sister. With a short moment of silence, we laughed at each other's reaction. Man, I love this show. Now, let's take a look at Haruhi Suzumiya. This girl is just awesome. She's eccentric, crazy, stupid, cute, and a bit of a tsundere. And yeah, I like tsundere. I think that they bring a fun chemistry to the show when done right. That aside, she's so fun to follow. You know how I said that it was cool to hear Kyon's thought, right? But with her it's the exact opposite. You never know really what she's thinking about that actually make every of her action look random and crazy. She had such a fun feeling to the show. I also like the fact that sometimes she just do some weird and mysterious stuff. I mean, look at this scene. I mean, what the hell was that? I love this scene, she's just so weird. But at the time you can read her like an open book. Like, she's obviously jealous of Mikuru at some point. She's complex and easy to understand at the same time. And you know how I said earlier that she bring a nice feel to the show? Well, if you watch the beginning of the show, before the SOS Brigade, and then you watch after...
Forget it. After being in the same class as her for 3 years, I know her pretty well. Let's just say she's what you might call beyond eccentric.
Wait, what the heck's that?
What? They're just pictures. They're totally cute shots of Mikuru.
Yeah, I see that. What the hell are you doing with these?
I'm loading them onto the main page of our website. Now we'll get tons of email about cool, weird happenings. Our site will get tens of thousands of hits. The counter will roll so high it'll be nuts. Wonder if the counter even goes that high. Wait! What are you doing, you idiot?
I'm putting an end to this.
You can't deny that it's more fun after. And yeah, she can be hateable at times, but it's on purpose. If she would always be the most likable girl, what would be the point of making her the god of the show? Would it be funnier if the god that they need to obey would be a good person? I don't think so. I think it's more fun the other way around. She's crazy, selfish, and can be evil at times, but she's just an amazing character all around. And I guarantee that you will probably remember her years after you watch the show. Now, you know, for the 3 other characters, well, I said in my Watcher Pass that they were just okay without Haruhi. While this is true for some extent, and especially true for Mikuru, there is a surprising layer of depth to Nagato and Koizumi. Those 2 characters mostly hiding their feelings through the series, and trying to understand them completely is not as easy as I thought. Koizumi loves Haruhi and Nagato likes Kyon. And to be honest, when I first saw the anime I was clueless. Yeah, I was a bit young and all, but I only realized it when I watched the movie. But I think that I'll get a little bit more in detail with those 2 characters if I do a video about the movie. But those 3 other characters also bring a really good chemistry to the show when they interact with Haruhi and they interact with Kyon. It makes for a real fun ride. I think that they're the perfect side character for this show, especially Koizumi. This guy is so fun and cool, man. He's the type of guy that I would probably hang out with. I love how the romance of the show is not shoved in her face. And I also love the way the romance progressed to the story. And yes, I know that in the anime they don't end up a couple, but still the show did such a great job to tell a realistic romance that develops slowly with 2 characters that are both unaware of their own feeling. Cause yeah, for us it became obvious that they love each other at some point, but there's still too much butthurt to admit it to themselves. Haruhi obviously wants to make Kyon happy with her ponytail in this scene. But she don't know why herself, and she never thought of asking him out or anything. And the same goes for Kyon. He really likes to spend time with her and try to convince himself that he just do it because he have to. But it's not the case. And they even kiss at some point, for crying out loud. And I know they only thought it was a dream, but still, it means something. I think their romance is realistic. In a lot of anime, it takes them only 2 days and they fall in love with each other. But here it takes time to build their relationship, and it's so nice to see them slowly fall for each other without having a huge focus or emphasis on their relationship. I love the character design. It might look a bit basic, but every character are easily identifiable from other anime character. Even if Kyon has the normal teenager look, his haircut is unique. I mean, yeah, it's short brown hair, but it's drawn in such a way that it feels different from other anime character. I think the same could be said for Koizumi, Mikuru and Nagato. I don't know, they just feel different because of their art style and the way it's all drawn. For real, big props to make those characters look different, because in a lot of anime there's characters that look alike, especially the male lead with brown or black hair. Like I already said, they're broken. In a lot of anime they look the same, they look a little bit like Kirito, but in this anime Kyon doesn't look physically like Kirito, at least doesn't look as much like Kirito as, let's say, the guy from the anime Another World with a Smartphone. I think that's the name. I didn't watch it, but I think this guy look a lot like Kirito, and there's a lot more that look like him. But for Haruhi it's not just that. Well, let's do a test. You will probably get it. If I show you a lot of picture of Haruhi, your eyes will automatically focus on something. Did you guess what it was? Well, more often than not your eyes will focus on the yellow headband in her hair. Why? Well, it's because the extreme contrast that it makes in her design. The dark of her hair mixed with the yellow of her headband create a light and dark contrast. And in this contrast we tend to focus on the light part. But that's not all. All of her clothes are mostly consistent of cold color, white and blue. And those cold color tend to be less noticeable compared to hot color like yellow. If you don't get it, well, look at that. Yeah, you look at the yellow dot first, didn't you? All that to say, even if she had quite a simplistic design, her design is really well thought. And it helped her truly feel different from other anime characters with only the help of a headband and color contrast. Seriously, big props for the character design of Haruhi. Simple but unique. And yeah, all good stuff had its bad side, and Haruhi's bad side is the season 2. God damn Endless 8. For those who don't know, the Endless 8 is an arc in the anime of 8 episodes that just repeat over and over and over for 8 episodes. It's annoying as hell, and it's such a bad decision by the studio. And it was probably a nightmare for every poor soul who watched it as it released. I mean, it's enough to want to drop the show altogether. But I didn't watch it as it released, and I didn't have this problem. And if you watch it now, there is a way to escape this torture. Just watch the first episode, then watch the end of the second that is slightly different, and finally watch the end of the last episode of the Endless 8. I will let you guys figure out the episode yourself, but it's not that hard if you follow my instruction. But yeah, freaking Endless 8, man. Bad stuff aside, you know, this show has a lot of memorable episodes for me. The dream where they kiss, the first time we see Nagato and Koizumi in action, the first episode, the baseball game, the murder island, and the whole time travel John Smith scene. But probably the most memorable scene of the entire show is the God Knows scene. It's also one of the most popular scenes of the show and a classic in the anime culture. This scene on YouTube has so much view and I still can't believe it. People are still watching this scene even today. I mean, I love everything from this scene. From the animation to the lyrics. I mean, the animation is so good and it's better than most anime that are released nowadays. I mean, just look at this. Damn. And just look at this lip syncing and facial animation. It just seemed really real and like she truly was trying her best with this song. Each time I listen to it, it made me want to try my best too. And I know that the context of the scene is not that great and it can feel a bit weird, but when you listen to the lyric you can sense that it has something to do with the show and the character. It's not emotional, it's not badass, it's not funny. It just makes you smile while you listen to some pretty good music. Probably one of my top 10 anime moments. But here's a less popular scene that I think that is super underrated. And it's one of the deepest moments of this show. Haruhi's speech about the significance of life. Her speech gives you some useful insight on her character and adds so much depth to this somewhat weird and mysterious girl. She went to a baseball game with her family and saw hundreds of people. At first, she thought it was the whole population of Japan. But in fact, it was just a small fraction of the population of her city. It made her realize how much she was just one of millions, and that everything she thought was cool or original that she does in her life was happening all over the world. It made her think, as a person, that she's just a grain of sand in the desert. A grain of sand, like every other. She got tired waiting for things to change, so she became the person that made the decision. The one that will make her existence unique. But as she entered high school, nothing happened. That's until Kyon talked to her. Damn, dude. That's some philosophical stuff right here. But seriously, this piece of dialogue changed everything I thought about Haruhi. She's all weird and energetic, just to make herself unique, just to live something unique. And I think that we can all relate to that at some point. It's probably the reason I start YouTube. We all want to be ourselves. We want to be unique. But once you realize that everything you're doing have already been done, it can make you melancholic. Yeah, Haruhi have a big place in my heart and I wanted to share it with you guys. That's why I decided to make my first Watcher Pass and my first in-depth video on Haruhi. Hell, I even made one of my philosophy work on it. So finally, if you watched it, what did you think? Who is your favorite character and what's your favorite scene? And if you didn't watch it, did I convince you to try it? Leave all that below so that we can continue our conversation here. Don't forget to sub if you like it because, you know, subscribers help, my man. Anyway, Cyber is out.